Good Saturday morning, and welcome to Bible Reading with Joy. I am Joy Robinson, and I will complete the book of Job on today. And I pray that you did enjoy hearing it and also reading it. And why don't you just go back over it one more time for yourself just to make sure that it is what it is. So we'll begin today with Job chapter 36. Elihu also proceeded and said, Suffer me a little while, and I will show thee that I have yet to speak on God's behalf. I will fetch my knowledge from afar, and will ascribe righteousness to my Maker. For truly my words shall not be false. He that is perfect in knowledge is with thee. Behold, God is mighty, and despise not any. He is mighty in strength and wisdom. He preserves not the life of the wicked, but gives right to the poor. He withdraws not his eyes from the righteous, but with kings are they on the throne. Yea, he does establish them forever, and they are exalted. And if they be bound in feathers and beholden to cords of affliction, then he shows them their work and their transgressions that they have exceeded. He opens also their ear to discipline and commands that they return from iniquity. If they obey and serve him, they shall spend their days in prosperity and their years in pleasures. But if they obey not, they shall perish by the sword, and they shall die without knowledge. But the hypocrites in heart heaps up wrath. They cry not when he binds them. They die in youth, and their life is among the unclean. He delivers the poor in his affliction and opens their ears in oppression. Even so would he have removed thee out of the strait into a broad place, where there is no straightness, and that which should be set on thy table should be full of fatness. But thou hast fulfilled the judgment of the wicked. Judgment and justice take hold on thee. Because there is wrath, beware, lest he take thee away with his stroke. Then a great ransom cannot deliver thee. Will he esteem thy riches? No, not gold, nor all the forces of strength. Desire not the night when people are cut off in their place. Take heed, regard not iniquity, for this hast thou chosen rather than affliction. Behold, God exalted by his power, who teach like him. Who has enjoined him his way, or who can say, Thou hast wrought iniquity? Remember that thou magnify his work, which men behold. Every man may see it, man may behold it afar off. Behold, God is great, and we know him not, neither can the number of his years be searched out. For he maketh small the drops of water, they pour down rain according to the vapor thereof, which the cloud do drop and distill upon man abundantly. Also, can any understand the spreadings of the clouds, or the noise of his tabernacle? Behold, he spreads his light upon it, and covers the bottom of the sea. For by them judges he the people. He gives meat in abundance. With clouds he covers the light, and commands it not to shine by the cloud that cometh betwixt. The noise thereof shows concerning it. The cattle also concerning the vapor. Job chapter 37. At this also my heart trembles, and is moved out of his place. Hear attentively the noise of his voice, and the sound that goes out of his mouth. He directs it under the whole heaven, and his lightning unto the ends of the earth. After it is a voice roars. After it a voice roars. He thunders with the voice of his excellency, and he will not stay them when his voice is heard. God thunders marvelously with his voice. Great things does he, which he cannot comprehend. For he said to the snow, Be thou on the earth. Likewise to the small rain, and to the great rain of his strength. He seals up the hand of every man, that all men may know his work. Then the beasts go into dens and remain in their places. Out of the south comes the whirlwind, and cold out of the north. By the breath of God frost is given, and the breath of the waters is straightened. Also by watering he wearies the thick cloud. He scatters his bright cloud, and it is turned round about by his counsel, that they may do whatsoever he commands them upon the face of the world in the earth. He calls it to come, whether for correction, or for his land, or for mercy. Hearken unto this, O Job. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God. Dost thou know when God disposed them, and caused the light of his cloud to shine? Dost thou know the balancing of the clouds, the wondrous works of him which is perfect in knowledge? How thy garments are warm when he quiets the earth by the south wind. Hast thou with him spread out the which is strong and as molten looking glass? Teach us what we shall say unto him, for he cannot order our speech by reason of darkness. Shall it be told him that I speak? If a man speak, surely he shall be swallowed up. And now men shall not the bright light which is in the clouds, but the wind pass and cleanse them. Fair weather comes out in the north. With God is terrible majesty. Touching the Almighty, we cannot find him out. He is excellent in power and in judgment and in plenty of justice. He will not afflict. Men do therefore fear him. He respects not any that are wise of heart. Job chapter 28. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who has laid the measures thereof? If thou knowest, or who has stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the songs of God shouted for joy, or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the wombs? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and break up for it my decree place, and set bars and doors, and said, Hitherto shalt thou come, and no further, and here shall it thou proud waves be stayed. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the day spring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea, and hast thou walked in the search of the depth? Have the gates of death been opened unto thee, or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. Where is the way where light dwells? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? That thou should take it to the bound thereof, and that thou should know the paths of the house thereof. Knowest thou it because thou wast then born, or because the number of thy days is great? Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? By what way is the light parted, which scattered the east wind upon the earth? Who has divided a watercourse for the overflowing of waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder, to cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man, to satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth? Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? Out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary frost of heaven? Who has gendered it? The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiade, or loose the bands of Orion? Can thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or can thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Can thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Can thou lift up thy voice in the clouds, that abundance of water may cover thee? Can thou send lightning, that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or who has given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds of wisdom, or who can say the bottles of heaven, when the dust grows into hardness and the clouds cleave fast together? Wilt thou hunt the prey for the lions, or fill the appetite of the young lions, when they couch in their dens and abide in the covert, and to lie in wait? Who provides for the raven his food? When his young ones cry unto God, they wonder for lack of meat. Job chapter 39. Knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth, or can thou mark when the hinds do calves? Can thou number the months that they fulfill, or knowest thou the time when they bring forth? They bow themselves, they bring forth their young ones, they cast out their sorrows. Their young ones are in good liking. They grow up with corn. They go forth and return not unto thee. Who has sent out the wild ass free, or who has loosed the bands of the wild ass? Whose house I have made the wilderness, and the barren land his dwellings. He scorns the multitude of the city, neither regards the crying of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he search after every green thing. while the unicorn be willing to serve thee, or abide by thy crib? Can thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow, or will he harrow the valleys after thee? Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great, or wilt thou leave his labor to him? Wilt thou believe him that he will bring home thy seed and gather it into thy barn? Gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacock, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich, which leaves her eggs in the earth and warms them in dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beasts may break them? She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain without fear, because God has deprived her of wisdom, neither has he imparted to her understanding. What time she lifts up herself on high, she scorns the horse and his rider. Hast thou given the horse strength? Hast thou clothed his neck with thunder? Can thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He paws in the valley and rejoices in his strength. He goes on to meet the armed men. He mocks at fear and is not affrighted, neither turn he back from the sword. The quiver rattles against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swallows the ground with fierceness and rage, neither believes he that is the sound of the trumpet. He sees among the trumpets, ha ha, and he smells the battle afar off, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. Does the hawk fly by thy wisdom and stretch her wings toward the south? Does the eagle mount up at thy command, and make her nest on high? She dwells and abides on the rock, upon the crage of the rock and the strong place. And from thence she seeks the prey, and her eyes behold afar off. Her young ones also suck up blood, and where the slain are, there is she. Job chapter 40. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, Shall he that contend with the Almighty instruct him? He that reprove God, let him answer it. Then Job answered the Lord and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay my hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then answered the Lord unto Job out of the whirlwind, and said, Gird up thy loins now, like a man. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. Wilt thou also disannul my judgment? Wilt thou condemn me, that thou mayest be righteous? Hast thou an arm like God? Or can thou thunder with a voice like him? Deck thyself now with majesty and excellency, and array thyself with glory and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of thy wrath, and behold every one that is proud, and abase him. Look on every one that is proud, and bring him low, and tread down the wicked in their place. Hide them in the dust together, and bind their faces in secret. Then will I also confess unto thee that thine own right hand can save thee. Behold now, Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo, now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moves his tail like a cedar, The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Surely the mountains bring him forth food, where all the beasts of the field play. He lies under in the covert of the reed and fens. The shady trees cover him with their shadows. The willows of the brook compass about him. Behold, he drinks up a river and hastes not. He trusts that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. He takes it with his eyes, his nose pierced through snares. Job chapter 41. Can thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Can thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird? Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet for him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Can thou fill his skin with barbed irons, and his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him. Remember the battle. Do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down, even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Who has prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with double bridles? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a closed seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together, that they cannot be asunder. By his nesting a light does shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leaps out. Out of his nostril goes smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindles coal, and a flame goes out of his mouth. In his neck remains strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raised up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. The sword of him that lays at him cannot hold. The spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemed iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laughs at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreads sharp pointed things upon the mire. He makes the deep to boil like a pot. He makes the sea like a pot of ointment. He makes a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholds all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. Job chapter 42. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. Who is he that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I suffered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees thee. Wherefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes. And it was so, that after the Lord had spoken these words unto Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My wrath is kindled against thee, and against thy two friends, for ye have not spoken of me the things that is right, as my servant Job has. Excuse me. Together, take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept, lest I deal with you after your folly, in that ye have not spoken of me the things which is right, like my servant Job. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite went, and did according to the Lord commanded them. And the Lord also accepted Job. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job. When he prayed for his friends, also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then came there unto him all his brethren, and all his sisters, and all they that had been in his acquaintance before, and did eat bread with him in his house. And they bemoaned him, and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and every one an earring of gold. So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep, and 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 she-asses. He had also 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he called the name of the first Jemimah, and the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Corinhapush. And in all the land were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brethren. After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died, being old and full of age. Yes, Job. I knew Job would be wonderful, and I knew that you would enjoy hearing it. Thank you for listening to me on today and watching Bible Reading with Joy. I am Joy Robinson, and don't forget to like and share me on Facebook, and also go to my YouTube page and like and subscribe, and also join me on Instagram. And have yourself a wonderful Saturday. And whatever you do for God, make sure that it lasts and it is done in perfection. In Jesus' name we do pray and thank God for you. Amen.